This is The Express with Gary Allen, your 360-degree view of the world. Now, here's your host, Gary Allen.
And a good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us here on The Express. I hope you've had a wonderful week since the last time we had an opportunity to talk to you. Tonight we have an absolutely wonderful guest on, Marilyn Anderson, who is the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire and You're Short a Few Bucks. I mean, that's not the complete title of the book. I will give that to you in just a couple of minutes. But first, just do a little house cleaning here. If you're going to go on Facebook, go to Gary Allen, A-L-A-N, YouTube.com, Gary Allen, The Express. You'll see all the past shows that are on there. Thursday at 7 p.m., this program will repeat itself on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com as well as on progressivevoices.com. You can go on to their demand channel. And good news, because I just found out about this, honest to God, about 10 minutes ago. You'll be able to hear these shows on 24/7 The Sound starting next month. I'll be, giving them a lot of my past shows as well as the current shows that'll be going on. And I'm very excited about that. And there's some other things coming down the line as well. The website is up. It's still under construction. We're still working on some things. I know this has taken like forever. I think I could probably run for president and be elected faster than it has been to put up my website. But there's been a couple of people different working on it. But it is it is up and is running. It is talk radio, Gary Allen Talk Show.com. So if you want to go on there, GaryAllenTalkShow.com, and we will hopefully you can get in there and see some things. There, again, it's under construction and some things are being changed around. It is my pleasure to have this young lady on the program, Marilyn Anderson. She's an author, travel and entertainment reporter, award-winning film and television writer. She's written for Murphy Brown, one of my favorite shows, Fame, Friday the 13th, the series, as well as Carol and Company, starring Carol Burnett and Jeremy Piven. She is a writer, producer of the family film How to Beat a Bully, and she has also written the book Never Kiss a Frog, A Girl's Guide to Creatures from the Dating Swamp. Well, I'm probably in there somewhere. Although not a millionaire, Marilyn has been living for the last 20 years like one, and she's going to share her secrets with you tonight. We're not going to be able to share all of them. We're going to go over everything as much as we possibly can, but she is absolutely fabulous, and she has written a book, How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short, which puts, I think, Marilyn, in all honesty, an awful lot of us in that same category, and I thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us, and I'm so honored to have you on the program.
It's great to be here, Gary.
And this is kind of a good night for me in a way, and my audience will recognize the fact that my Celtics are winning, so I'm really in a very good mood. Marilyn, let's start. Let's start back. Growing up, you grew up. Your mother was a librarian. Your father was an engineer. You grew up in Philadelphia, which is in Pennsylvania, a state that I am from originally. What was your upbringing like? Were you an avid reader, or were you attracted to show business? Where was your path originally in comparison to where you are now?
Well, the funny thing is, my mother was a librarian. I always say my house was arranged according to the Dewey Decimal System. But I knew that my mother loved me because every 2 weeks she'd renew me. But the funny thing is, my mother would be at the library teaching other kids how to read, and I would be home like making up stories. So, but then when it came to going to college and everything, my mother wanted me to meet a doctor. So I actually became a biology major and got a graduate degree in biology and physiology, and worked at the National Academy of Sciences as a biomedical information specialist. And then one day I said, I don't want to do this. I want to be a star. So I quit my job and sold my car, sold my furniture, sold my boyfriend, didn't get much for him. And I moved to New York to become a star. And it was very exciting. I got into a Broadway show like a week after I got there, and I sang and danced and acted. And that really was my true path. But I guess I took a detour when I went into biology. But happily, I found that wasn't the path for me. I'm much more a creative, and my passion is, as it turned out, I did a lot of acting, and I even did stand-up. I went on back-to-back at the comic strip with Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh,
but
God.
then I moved out to LA, and out here I started writing, and that became my real passion. I wrote for TV and film, and I've written a few books, and that's really where my passion and drive is now. So
isn't it funny? And this goes for just about everybody that I can think of, who's ever really been in show business, or for that matter, who has gone on to do something. You grow up believing that you want to do this, and then as the years go by and you see the world out of a different prism sometimes, and you look at yourself and you're changing, as we all do, I guess, every 7 to 10 years, and what you went to college for, and you turn around and you go, yeah. It's like when I was at the Groundlings with Kevin Costner. Kevin was a CPA. He was an accountant. That's what he went to college for.
I never knew that.
And he turned around one day and he just said, Gare, I just took a look at what I was doing, and I said, this is boring. And the same would go for me. I originally wanted to be like my dad, an airline pilot, but in all honesty, if anybody that you ever talked to who knows me while I flew in the Air Force, you don't want me behind the controls of a commercial airplane. I'm too goofy. I'm too crazy.
I wouldn't want to be like, I was going to go to medical school, and then I thought, oh God, I wouldn't want a surgeon like me, because although I'm organized in my head, I'm not organized like when it comes to meticulousness or neatness. I wouldn't want somebody operating on me with my skills in that department.
Now, I'm that way because of my military training and the fact that I was brought up in a household with many siblings, and we all had to kind of keep track of our own stuff. So I'm kind of a neat guy like that. And yeah, my mother wanted me to be a doctor too. What Jewish mother doesn't want her son to be a doctor? I mean, and
right.
to marry the right woman, and to have the children and the whole bit. And then when I turned around after getting out of the University of Miami and said, no, I'm going to follow Uncle Tubby's footsteps. I'm going to be a stand-up, and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I was lucky enough that when I got to LA, Bud Friedman knew my uncle, and I was one of his MCs for a long time, me and Howard Allen. And of course, I was at the Groundlings down the road, as you well know. That's on Melrose. But back then, anybody could be a member of the Groundlings. I mean, if you could breathe, you could be them. Nowadays, it's a whole different matter. But I had fun. I did a lot of television and stuff. But writing was never one of my things. I suffer from dyslexia, so it's kind of a difficult thing to do. Now, here I want to go back to when you were in New York. You got a job right away on Broadway, and you thought to yourself, wow, this is great. It's a paycheck. I'm living La Vida Loco. I'm having fun. This is it. My dream is coming true. God, this is great. And then, boom, something happened to the show, and you had to make a decision.
Well, the show only ran for 8 performances. It wasn't because I wasn't great, but the show actually wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. But I still was doing a lot of auditioning. I was going up for commercials, and I did summer stock one year. And as I said, I started doing stand-up and met a lot of the comics some of whom went on to big things like Jerry Seinfeld, and some of whom we haven't heard of. But then decided one day I either had to take a vacation or get a job.
Yes, and this
so
I love.
Vacation or job. So I took a vacation, and I came out to LA, and I said, this is the place to be. Mm-hmm. And it was out really in LA that I started writing. I wrote a screenplay. I got a copy of the book Screenplay by Sig Field, and I followed it like a cookbook. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, oh, you'll never get an agent, and you'll never get this made. And I did get a very high-powered agent. And I got a lot of attention from the script, and it got optioned numerous times, and it ended up actually getting made 20 years after I wrote it. So that just shows you never give up. No. If you believe in something, never give up.
And in all honesty, when you go to LA, it's like what a lot of acting teachers that I know who taught would often say to their classes, their beginning classes, this is not the town you come to get it together if you're going to be an actor. You better have an extensive resume, and you better have your act together, and you better be able to deal with people, because out here they'll run you over like a lawnmower over grass. And I think that's pretty true. And when you were in New York and doing the stand up, did you also run into Carol Leifer?
Oh yeah, she was at the comic strip when I was there too. I didn't know her very well. I knew a lot of the guys better at the time. I knew Jerry, and I knew Larry David, and I knew actually Larry Miller, who is a well-known actor here, and he was in all Gary Marshall's movies. But the funny thing is, when I was at the comic strip, Larry Miller was a drummer. He wasn't even doing stand-up. And now he's very successful both as an actor, and I think he may still do stand-up too. I'm not sure, but he's had a great deal of success. And Paul Reiser was there.
Oh, Paul! I've known Paul for many years, and you probably ran into, I'm sure, even though by then he had already made a name for himself, but somebody I've known since the age of 6, and that's Jay Leno.
I didn't know Jay in New York. I met him out in L.A. at the Improv, and he was always a really nice guy, but I didn't know him personally. A lot of the other comics that I knew from L.A. knew Jay, but he was not in New York when I was there, so I didn't know him from there. Yeah,
I've known Jay since, I don't know, about 6 years old. His family and mine are from his family and my family are from New England. At least my father's side of it is. How did you enjoy doing the stand-up? I mean, coming from your background and then going on stage to do stand-up, it's like night and day.
It is. I tell people I traded in a microscope for a microphone, but I like stand-up, and I mean, I loved getting laughs. That feels good. It's immediate gratification, and I had some really funny material. But I think the reason that ultimately the stand-up didn't work for me was twofold. Number one, it really involves hanging out at the clubs every single night, very late, standing around, waiting. And that's not always fun, you know. And then if you do make it, you end up going on the road and living a life on the road. And it's hard. It's not easy.
No,
and the other thing that I think every stand-up who really becomes successful has is they really have that specific persona when they get up. And although I had really good material and funny jokes, I never really developed my own persona. I can do characters, but that wasn't part of my stand-up. If I got up and did stand-up as a character, I would have been better. But trying to be me. The other thing is I really preferred, like, I love writing screenplays because I'm really at heart a storyteller. And I love wending a fabulous story with lots of twists and turns and different characters. And that's very different than stand-up. Stand-up is set up, punchline, set up, punchline. And I'm a storyteller. So I was fortunate to find that part of myself and then to really develop it. What happened, of course, in LA when you're writing, or if you're an actor, or if you're anything, that in a life where you're not making a bundle of money, in addition to doing your work, which isn't always financially paid in the way it would be nice, you still want to live a life. And that's how I started living like a millionaire, even though I was not really making money, but I wanted to do things. And so I found ways to travel and eat at fancy restaurants and buy great clothes and go great places, but without spending a lot of money because I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yeah. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But the book that I really found interesting, this one was fabulous, by the way. What a well-read book it is. We're talking to Marilyn Anderson, and Marilyn is the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. And boy, I've always said I'm never going to be a millionaire, but a thousandaire, that'll be fine by me. You know, although I do have some friends of mine who are comics that are extremely successful. But I want to talk about your writing, how did you know? I mean, did you just start out? I mean, you said talk about storytelling as a comic, and you knew that wasn't going to really work the way you wanted it to. But how did you know to get involved with screenplay? I wouldn't even know how to begin to write a screenplay, even if I read a book on how to write a screenplay. Because while I may have a story or two, I probably don't have as much of an imagination or anything to really hold on to as probably you do. And which brings up the second part of the question: where does it all come from? Where do the ideas? Because the book that you wrote, Never Kiss a Frog, is got to be a fascinating book.
Well, that book actually was based on my dating situation. So I didn't have to have as much imagination in living those stories, although what I did in that one was I turned each of my bad dating experiences into a different frog. So every chapter deals with a different frog, like the long-term go-nowhere frog, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Toad, or Count Frogula. And each of those has a story and also an illustration, and also a wart warning or a ribbit snippet. And they're funny, but they're true. They're based on my real life dating situations. As far as writing my screenplays goes, I would get an idea and I would say, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Why hasn't this been made into a movie yet? And I mean, I loved movies, and I still love movies. I go see everything, anywhere, anytime. That's my love, is because when I was writing TV, you really have to stay true to the world that they create. Like when I wrote for Murphy Brown, I had to stay in Murphy's office or in her home, and I had to use the characters that were already there. But when you write a screenplay, you can take anything from this world, or you can create a whole other world. And that's what I like to do. I like to start with the seed of an idea, and then I develop the characters and the obstacles that they would face and what they're going to have to go around. And there are some good books out there. Like I said, Sid Field was a guru who I think wrote the first real Bible of how to write a screenplay. And I literally followed it like a cookbook. And my first script was very well received from a lot of different agents. And as I said, it got me a lot of attention, although this is a business where sometimes it doesn't happen right away. You know, it's a matter of not just how good your work is, but who you know, and also if you're lucky or not. And so, but I do say that if you believe in your work and it's good, that something will happen. I had another screenplay that was optioned by Hollywood 8 times by 8 different producers. And finally, I said, I'm not optioning it anymore. And I raised the money and I went out and made the film. And this was a film I made last year called How to Beat a Bully. And it's how to beat a bully, not be one, but beat a bully. And I was very proud of myself that I stopped waiting for Hollywood. And I went out and I raised the money and teamed up with a production company. They brought in another investor from in addition to the one that I had. And within 6 months, we were casted in production, and the movie's out now. It got picked up by Walmart, which is a big coup for a little movie. It was an indie. And I'm very proud of it. And it's the thing about this movie is so many stories of bullying are sad or depressing or unhappy. And this movie is actually a comedy. It's like a Home Alone kind of movie, but with an anti-bullying theme. So kids and parents can watch it and have laughs, but it still ends up with the message: it's better to be friends than bullies. So I'm really proud of it because I stopped waiting for Hollywood and I said, I'm going to go make this movie, and I did.
I think a lot of people who are in a position out in Los Angeles, actors and even producers or writers themselves, sometimes get a little tired of waiting for the heads of state to make a decision. And they grab the bull by the horns and they go out and they try to find the funding, and they put together the project themselves, and they go ahead and they do it. And I commend people for that, because people out there don't realize, they think that everything is an overnight success, and it isn't. I have some friends of mine who are actors who are still struggling, and I have other friends of mine who are actors who are doing quite well, who just kind of walked into Hollywood, and after a couple of years it started to happen. Other people don't. So I commend you for that. You're also a relations expert. We're going to get back to the writing in a minute, but I wanted to touch on this. You're a relations expert and speaker, but you also were part of a television show where you were a kissing expert. What makes for a good kiss?
Well, this is funny. After I wrote my book, Never Kiss a Frog, I got a lot of publicity and a lot of attention, and I got called by Extreme Makeover. This was the original Extreme Makeover. And I thought, oh, good, I'm going to get, an eye job and a chin job and a nose job and a boob job. But no, they said, well, we heard you're, a kissing expert, and we have a girl who's never been kissed. And the funny thing is, I went on the show and I gave her tips, and afterwards she walked away with my eye job and my nose job and my boob job.
Oh, okay.
But they called me because of the book, and so I went on and I was the flirting and kissing coach, and I literally taught her how to. I gave her tips, and they brought in a guy to test her with, and he was very cute. I said to him, "Hey, if you don't want to kiss her." If you don't want to kiss him, I will, because he was very good looking. But it's so funny. I'll tell you a story that happened after that is I got a call from a big magazine saying that they heard I was a kissing expert, and they heard that I coached actors and actresses, big leads, before their kissing scenes and taught them how to kiss. And could I tell them who I coached? And I said, no, it's all confidential. I can't tell you who I taught how to kiss.
Oh, God.
But it was funny, the word gets out about you in one way, and and that's great. So we all hope that the word gets out about us in positive ways, and now, about my new book too. So, well, yeah, it's funny that I got called for that.
And I'm not going to give up on that, because I still want to know what makes for a good kiss. We're talking to Marilyn Anderson, the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. But what makes for a good kiss? I mean, on the first date, a little peck, and that should suffice?
On the first date? Well, yeah, I always say if I don't like him upstairs, I don't want to go downstairs. And that's true. What makes for a good kiss is if first, you have to have chemistry with the person. You have to be able to talk to them and find them fascinating and want to kiss them. Mm-hmm. Then, if you're to the point where I want to kiss this person, yeah, I would say a peck or a little bit more than a peck. I'd say, keep your lips soft. Don't tighten up too much, And Gary, this is the kind of thing for TV, because I can't show people over the radio, but I would say don't be too tight. It's like when someone has really tight lips and holds it tight, that's no good. And you also don't want to put your tongue down her throat on the first date either.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe that's one of my mistakes. Let's move on here quickly. You were talking about when you write and you begin to write a story. Do you know where you're going? Do you have an outline? Some writers have outlines, bullet points. They have an idea and do you have an idea where you're going? And as you're going along, does that change depending upon what comes into your head as you're moving along with each chapter?
Or are you talking about a book, or are you talking about a screenplay? On a screenplay,
I mean the difference, in writing.
It is different, because when I create a screenplay, when you write a screenplay, you really want to. Like when you go to a movie, you want to get hooked right away, and you want to move through that evening like a train. You don't, and a movie you see all in one sitting, so you want it to really be fast moving. And yes, so when I write a screenplay, before I sit down to write scenes, I absolutely block out the whole thing, and I always know what the end is, and then I work the twists and turns and everything to get to the end. And I break down the scenes, each one. And then when I've figured out where I'm going, then I'll sit down and write the scenes. And sometimes they will change along the way because of what the characters have learned or how they've developed and how they evolve. In a book, now I have a novel coming out also in October, but in a book, oftentimes people don't necessarily read a book in one sitting. So it doesn't have to have quite the pacing of a screenplay. And also it depends if it's a nonfiction or a fiction book. If it's a fiction book, if it's a story, then again, you can plot it out, but a novel allows more space for tangents and getting to know people and going in different directions more than a movie does. In a nonfiction book, which are the two books that we've talked about tonight, the Never Kiss a Frog and the How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short, people can pick up different sections or chapters depending on what they're looking for. In How to Live Like a Millionaire, I have a chapter on entertainment, a chapter on restaurants, a chapter on travel, a chapter on shopping. So if somebody wants a great deal on shopping, they'll immediately go to the shopping chapter. Or if they're moving into a new house, they'll go into the housing chapter or into the furniture chapter, that kind of thing. So books and screenplays and even TV, they're all different mediums, and stage plays are different as well. So, but you generally have a pattern or a blueprint of where I'm going and where I want it to go and how I want it structured.
Yeah, and I've heard that from a lot of authors, and then others sometimes they'll just say, I really have a basic idea, but I'm not sure what. Let's get into this wonderful, wonderful book. And as you mentioned, you have a lot of different sections. How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short, which a lot of us are. I'm a thousandaire, but that's about as far as I'm going in life. How did this book come about? I know that the journey that you were on, as far as being a writer and stuff, you turned around one day and you said, why should I be paying a dime to go here and go there? Why don't I let somebody else, come up with the money for my hotel room and my transportation and everything? And you thought of travel writing, but all your friends in the business of that are travel writers said, no, you're not going to get anywhere until you have an assignment. And if you had listened to them, you would have never got anywhere. So how did you manage to get yourself going in this direction? Because I know the book has been coming on for 20 plus years with all the information, but tell everybody how you basically began this whole wonderful career in writing about living like a millionaire.
It started actually right after I wrote the book, Never Kiss a Frog, and I was going across the country doing talks and presentations and book signings. And I knew that if I went on my own nickel, I'd be staying at Motel 6s and Best Westerns. And then I realized if I was on somebody else's nickel, I would rather stay at 5-star hotels and eat at great restaurants.
Yeah.
And so I started contacting places and saying I was a writer and I would write about them if they would host me. That's the magic word, if you'll host me. And so I did talk to a bunch of real, quote unquote, travel writers, and they told me that I'd never get anybody to host me unless I was writing for the New York Times or for Condé Nast. And I certainly proved them wrong because I've been all over the country now. I stayed at the Monterey Hotel and Spa at their honeymoon suite, and I was not married. I stayed at the Ernest Hemingway suite in New Orleans and had my own swimming pool and on the roof. Mm-hmm. And I went on a 5-star trip to Taiwan. And I never wrote for New York Times or Condé Nast, but it's all about, and even if people are not writers, but it's about being resourceful, about realizing what you might like, and then figuring out how you can do it in a way that's a win-win situation, not a scam situation, but win-win. And one of the things I did, someone who had interviewed me about my book, Never Kiss a Frog, ran an online magazine. And it was basically a fashion magazine, only they did some book reviews and things. And so I asked her, would you like a travel column? And she said, oh, yeah, I'd love a travel column. So bada bing, I suddenly had a travel column. And I just would contact either the hotels or the chains or the Chamber of Commerce in different cities and tell them I was writing for this magazine, and they would host me. And every time I would get to a hotel, there would always be a basket of wine and fruit waiting. Welcome, Marilyn. We're so glad you're here. And that's how I started writing for travel reporting. It wasn't something I intended to do. It was just something that, because of my situation, I decided, hey, I'd rather stay at a fabulous 5-star hotel than stay at a Motel 6. I ended up going on hot air balloon rides. I went to the Bob Bondurant School of High Performance Driving and did hot laps. I was on a fabulous one of those, not the bungee jumps, but the other things where the lines where you go across the mountains in Colorado. So I did things I never thought I would do and never necessarily planned to do. But that's part of what I call the rules to live like a millionaire by, is stay open about things and let things into your life. And also know what things you want. And then when there's a chance to get them, go for it. Carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with what some advice that an acting teacher gave me many years ago when he said to me, he said, always be willing to take a chance. Always be willing to get yourself out there, because you just never know. And every time you're out there, you never know who you're going to meet and what opportunity may come knocking on your door.
And that's exactly it. I mean, I never planned to go into travel writing. It was never something that was on my list. But because I was traveling across the country and I wanted to do it in grander style than I was able to, I created something for myself. And these days, it's even easier because now with the internet, there are so many blogs going on, and people can blog about whatever they want, whether it's about travel, or I knew a guy who loved watches. And so he started a blog about watches. And now every watchmaker sends him samples, and even very expensive ones, so that he'll write about them. And you can do that with food. You can do it with clothes. You can do it with everything. There are so many opportunities now of things you can create yourself, because it's a different world with the internet. Truly,
I wonder if I started blogging about the fact I don't date models, what would happen there?
Well, you have to try it and see what happens.
No, I ran into enough models in LA, as I'm sure you can imagine. As you were talking, it reminds me of something that I read about one of my boyhood heroes that he said. And I managed to talk to him about this, and it's a long story how I knew this gentleman, but it was the late Johnny Unitas of the Baltimore Colts. And he once said in his book, if you take no the first time, you'll never get anything done in life. If you listen to other people's negativity,
right.
You'll never get anything done in life. And it doesn't matter how old you are before you get what you need to get, because a lot of us, people in show business, we understand, and you're more in it than I am. I'm just a talking head behind a microphone. But the bottom line is sometimes it takes projects years before they even get going. So patience is the number one thing. Let's get even more involved in the book. Now, you talk about getting free tickets and wonderful seats for the theater. And we're going to go through this. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say right up front, we can't give you everything that's in this book. You need to go out. You need to go on to Amazon and buy the book, How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short, by Marilyn Anderson. We're just going to give you some tips along the way. And the medical stuff I want to get to in a little bit, because our good friend Bernadette Duncan gave me some great ideas. And she gave you a great review, by the way, as you know, on Amazon. And she's absolutely wonderful. And if it wasn't for you, I would have never met her. So I thank you so much for that. But let's talk a little bit about, everybody knows about in when you live in New York or Chicago or LA, there's places to get cheap tickets and stuff. But what if you don't live in New York or LA or Chicago or Atlanta? You live in a small town. How can you get yourself some inexpensive theater tickets as well as show tickets, whatever the case may be?
Well, in a lot of places, theaters have what's called a pay what you can night. And check with your local theaters, because oftentimes they want to open it up to people who might not have that much. And in a lot of cities, including London, they have theaters that have pay what you can nights, and you can go there. And if prices are usually $40 or $50, pay what you can. You can give them 10, you can give them 5, you can give them $1. Another thing, goldstar.com, of course, has a lot of different cities where they give reduced prices. And there's also opportunities sometimes on preview nights or dress rehearsal nights. You can go and see the show. And then the other way to do it is become an usher. A lot of cities, I know somebody, you're in Texas. I have a friend who goes to the Long Center, which is a very fancy, beautiful theater in Texas. And he goes as an usher. And if he ushers one night, he is not only allowed to see that show, but he can go to other shows at that theater on different nights. So there are a lot of different ways that you can see theater for lower prices, even if you're not in New York or LA or Vegas. But
yeah.
So keep your eyes out for those things.
Yeah, when I lived in Las Vegas, I was lucky enough as a performer. I got a lot of freebie tickets. There's also something where the award ceremonies are out in LA, and that's seat fillers. Now, the person living in Kansas isn't going to do that, but you often see people sitting next to celebrities. You go, who is that? And it's nobody. It's just a seat filler. And so you can do that. Talk about cheap tickets for Hamilton, which are going for anywhere between $850 and $1,000 a ticket. How can people get some inexpensive tickets for Hamilton and some of the other Broadway shows?
Hamilton and the other Broadway shows have lotteries. And it used to be that the lotteries were all in person, that you had to go down to the theater, and 2 hours before the show, you put your name in a bucket, and then they would pull out names, and anybody who got called would be allowed to buy 2 free tickets, usually for the front row, anywhere from $20 to $25, $30. Now, again, because of the internet, but also because when Hamilton came about, they were getting like 500, 600 people on the curb, and it was too many. So now those shows, the Broadway shows, many of them have digital lotteries. And in a way, it's good because you don't have to go to the theater. You just enter the digital lottery, and you don't have to live, close to the theater. But if you live in Long Island or New Jersey and you enter the lottery and you win it, then you'll go into town that night. And the digital lottery for Hamilton, the tickets are $10 if you win the lottery. The good news is you don't have to go there. The bad news is more people enter because they don't have to go there. But the other thing that people should know is that these shows, when they travel, like when Hamilton goes on the road, which it is now, or Book of Mormon or Wicked, when they travel, lotteries travel with the show. So if Wicked or Hamilton or Book of Mormon or Rent comes to your town and you don't have the money to spend for the regular seats, check with the box office and ask if they have a lottery. And if they do, they'll tell you how to enter it. And if you're lucky, you might get $10 seats for Hamilton in the front row.
Wow. Yeah. A certain vice president wishes he probably did. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen Book of Mormon on the lottery. I've seen Wicked. I saw The Producers. I saw Rent. They were all lottery tickets that I won. And those were basically when they were in person. I would go down to the theater, whether it was in LA or in New York. And also I've done it in Vegas. They have the Smith Center in Las Vegas where they get big shows. And they have a lottery for a lot of the shows there too. So.
Yeah, I was lucky, like I said, living in Las Vegas, working also at the Wynn Hotel in the concierge department. So I got a lot of freebies that way. Now, you've got your theater tickets and you want to look good. Some shopping tips for everybody on where a young lady out there can maybe wear that $2,000 designer dress for only $50, or the gentleman wearing an expensive suit for very, very little. Give us some ideas of some shopping tips where people can get some wonderful clothing for a reduced price or almost next to nothing.
Well, I just love this because, and this doesn't matter where you live because it happens by mail. There's a number of sites where you can rent expensive clothes. And one of my faves is renttherunway.com. And again, it doesn't matter where you live, and you go online and you look at the clothes, and if you have a special occasion, you find something you like. It could be a $2,000 dress, it could be $5,000, it could be $1,000, it could be $800, whatever, and you rent it, and they mail it to you, no shipping charge, and you wear it, and then you don't have to get it cleaned. You just send it back. And there's other places too, latote.com. There's handbag places that do it. But Rent the Runway is probably was the first to do this. But it's fabulous. And they also have an unlimited option where it used to be $99. I think it went up to $139. But can you imagine where for $139 a month, it's like the Netflix of fashion. You just order clothes and you wear them, and then you send them back and get others, and you don't even have to fill up your closet. You just keep having a never-ending a stream of hot-looking clothes. It's really good, I think, for gals who work in an office or who go to a lot of parties or who just want to look good but don't want to be buying clothes and spending that money all the time. And so many times we buy things that we don't wear. And the other thing, of course, and I think every city has consignment shops where you can, if you have something and you don't wear it, you take it there and you can actually sell it and get some money for it and buy other things. There's consignment shops, there's thrift shops, and not only now are they in your own town, but there's a bunch of places online now too. So wherever you live, there's a place called Poshmark.com. Or if you have jewelry, there's a place called therealreal.com, and you can sell your things as well as buying new things at great prices. And there's even those for furniture now, where when you have something, they'll come and pick up your nice piece of furniture, and you can sell it and buy another piece. One of those is called Cherish.com. So there's so many opportunities now wherever you live to do some of this stuff online. But I always say, if you can, go to your local places and see, help them out too, because it's good to support your local businesses. But I have a favorite shop here, the Jewish Women's Thrift Shop. I literally bought a $10,000 couch for $200.
Wow.
And people see it, they think, oh my God, look at this gorgeous couch. And the funny thing is, it was white. It is white because I call it the forbidden zone. I won't let anybody go in there. In the 50s, they put plastic covers on.
Oh, yes, yes.
With me, I put one of those yellow police tapes around it. Here.
I had an aunt who put plastic over furniture, and my mother was an interior decorator, and she used to look at my aunt and go, "You're nuts. Furniture is made to live on." So I don't know. We're talking to Marilyn Anderson, the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. Okay, you've got your theater tickets. You're looking good. Now you've enjoyed your night at the theater. Now you want to go out and eat. Talk about, for all us foodies out there, and I love food, being the little Greek Jewish boy, love me food. Talk about some of the restaurants where they can get some great deals at some of the cool restaurants, not only in the major cities, but some of the smaller cities too.
Well, I'm a foodie. I love to eat as well.
Oh, yeah.
So some of my favorite ways to save money going to dinners at great places. Well, first of all, there's restaurant.com. And restaurant.com is all over the country, and you get certificates. You get like a $25 certificate. Now, normally they might charge $10 for it. I say don't pay $10 because they have sales all the time where they email you, today a $25 certificate is only $3 or $2. So wait till they email you that, and when you can, And when it's $2 for a certificate, stock up on the restaurants you'd like to go to. Another 2 places they have that are Groupon.com, and also livingsocial.com. And they have all kinds of restaurants in neighborhoods all over the country where they're offering really good deals. And you might have to pay $20 for what would normally be $40 or $50 at a restaurant. And they'll tell you what restaurants these are. And again, these places have, Groupon and Living Social have sales where on certain weekends they'll say everything on our site is 20% off or 30% off, or everything on our site is you can take $10 off or $30 off. So what I like to do is wait till I get those emails. Then I go on the site, Groupon or Living Social, pick the restaurants that I like or that I want to try, and I buy them when they're on sale. So those 3 sites are really good for saving money. Another thing I like to do, a lot of expensive restaurants like Ruth Chris Steakhouse or Fleming Steakhouse, those are, and even the grill, the Daily Grill, they're expensive for their entrees. But if you go for happy hour, they often have like $8 choices when their regular meals are $39 to $50. Here you can go for $8. You get the same ambiance, you get the same atmosphere, but you're getting it at happy hour. And some of these places, if we're talking about going after the theater, have late night happy hours. And what I say is find the places in your neighborhood. I just moved. I lived in a place for 23 years, and I moved 2 months ago. And I'm now discovering all these really cool restaurants in my neighborhood. And a lot of them are very expensive. Yeah. But I found this fabulous Italian restaurant that I can walk to. And their meals are like $30 or $40 an entree. But they have a happy hour every day from 4 to 6, or every night after 9 p.m., where they have like 10 different items on their menu for $6 each. Wow. Now, I didn't know that, but I went in, looked at the menu, and asked and said, do you have a happy hour? Oh, yes. We have an early happy hour and a late happy hour. So that's a way that you can go to some of these fancy places and not have to spend the enormous prices, but still get the food that they have and the atmosphere and the fun, but at lower prices. So I love happy hours. And I'm more of a foodie. I don't drink a lot, but I like the happy hours that have great food.
Do you think social media, if it hadn't come along, would not allow us to maybe do a lot of this stuff that's in your book, that social media has really helped people find their way to find discounts on this, that, and the other?
I don't know if social media per se does, because a lot of these they're on the internet. You know, there's information on the internet. Social media, I don't know how many people really go and like their favorite restaurants. I don't. I mean, and I'm a foodie, and I don't go online to find on social media my restaurant, you know. Although I will say I do have a How to Live Like a Millionaire Facebook page that everyone should go to and like. Right. And I do, if they go to howtolivelikeamillionaire.com, they'll get connected to my book and to the links. But as far as like Facebook and things like that, I think it's a way for people to share. And of course, people now are taking pictures of their food and stuff, which is great. Yeah. And it is true on Facebook. I guess restaurants do have Facebook pages, and probably many of them do list their some bargains and some days when they have good deals going on. So I haven't really done that much, but I'm sure they're there. Another place that I order from when I order in is called munchery.com. And I did find out about that on social media. And also, if you spread the word, a lot of times you'll get a referral fee. So if you get Groupons and you like them and you refer a friend and they get it, you'll get $10 in your Groupon account. So that's another way, you know, by sharing your good fortune at finding good places at good prices, you get rewarded for that too.
We are talking to Marilyn Anderson, the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short, which is probably about where most of us are. Before we get on to the medical stuff and the health tips and makeup and things along those lines, because we got about 15, 20 minutes left, you also state finding money you don't know you have. Where do you, I mean, I know they will advertise from state, call this number and give us your name or social security number, and we'll see if you have money laying in a bank somewhere you forgot you had. Are you talking about that, or are you talking about something else completely different?
Well, first of all, if anyone says, give us your number and we'll find money for you, do not do it. Do not do it. Because they will charge you for something that you can find out for free. Okay. And yeah, what this is, and I'll tell you a funny story, because if you go to missingmoney.com, it is about what's called unclaimed property. And people say, oh, I don't have any unclaimed property. Unclaimed property is, it could be money you have left in a bank account. It could be money from an old insurance policy. It could be hundreds of things that you don't know about. And the funny thing is, I had a friend who I told to go to Missing Money, and he says, oh, I don't have anything. And I said, go to it. It turned out his brother went and signed him up, and it said that he had money in Texas. And he had lived in Texas like 20 years ago or whatever. And he didn't believe it. He thought it was a scam. Then about 6 months later, he got a letter saying, we're sending you a check. He still didn't believe it. Well, cut to, he got a check in the mail for $8,000. $8,000. True story, from Texas, because when he was living in Texas, I don't know, he bought some kind of it might have been a security or something, I'm not sure. And he forgot about it, and he literally got a check for $8,000, and he fought me every step of the way that it could not be true, and it was a scam, and it was not. But as I said, if somebody calls you, don't do it, because there are places that try to make money off of what other people are owed. But anybody can go to missingmoney.com and put in your name and the state or city where you lived, and it'll say if there's money there. Also, a lot of our parents or grandparents might have had money. So put in their names in the different places that they lived. Now, missingmoney.com has most of the states as a part of it, but some of the states are not registered. So you could also go to naupa.org, NAUPA.org, or just plug in unclaimed property on the web, and it'll take you to the government site. Don't go to other sites, because then those people are going to try to charge you and take a commission. But it's something that you can do. It doesn't cost any money. I've done it a couple times. Years ago, I did it, and I got like $200 that I didn't know I had. I was so excited. I went on about a month ago, and it said I had money, and I got excited. How much? I had 22 cents.
Yeah. My luck is, I've always said that if there was a guy with a table that was giving out $100 bills to everybody in the world, and I was last in line, but don't worry about it, there's $100 waiting for you. Immediately when we got up to line, they'd say, Gareth, sorry, we ran out.
Yeah. Well, literally, I'm telling you, my friend got an $8,000 check. And some people, through their ancestors, through their parents or grandparents, if you can prove that you were related to them, they could have hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are actually billions of dollars in this account from people all over the country who don't know it's there. So that after you listen to this show, the first thing you should do, anyone who's listening, is go to missingmoney.com and put your name in or your relatives' names in and see. You may have money that belongs to you that you don't even know about.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's kind of get to something that Bernadette turned me on to. And she said, Gary, this is a wonderful section of the book, and that's taking care of yourself from head to foot medically. Now, I know some of the, you can always go to Mexico. A few friends of mine did that when I lived in L.A. to get some medical care and stuff like that. But let's talk about that. People who have an appearance aspect. Maybe they want to get a nose job, or they want to get their teeth fixed, or maybe they've got something wrong with their feet or something. Give us an idea of what they can do and where they can go, and maybe get some help and at a reduced cost, or maybe next to nothing. Because I know sometimes the medical schools will do things for next to nothing, or charge very little.
Well, not only that, but especially with cosmetic procedures. Again, I hate to say it, but if you go on Groupon or Living Social, a lot of cosmetic doctors are advertising now, and so they're offering Groupons and they're offering, Living Social vouchers. Another thing you can do is a lot of these people now want to go on TV on news shows and show how they do things, or even make a YouTube video. So sometimes if somebody goes in, they can say, do you need anybody for a video? Can we make a deal where I'll be, I'll do the video for you. As far as nose jobs, I can't believe it. I mean, this is something that not a lot of people know. If you want a nose job, a traditional nose job, rhinoplasty, probably costs, I would say $10,000 to $25,000, depending on the area of the country and what you need. And not only that, but it requires heavy duty surgery and recovery time and pain. But now they have what's called a 15-minute nose job, or a non-surgical nose job, where you go into the doctor's office and it's just injections into your nose. And it's not good for every kind of nose jobs, but for a lot of them where somebody just wants to remove the bump or change a hook nose, and they give you injections of Restylane or of Radius, and instead of it costing $10,000 to $25,000 and pain and recovery time, you go in, you get it done, and you leave in 15 minutes. You can go back to work the same day, and it can cost anywhere from, I would say, $700 up to $1,500. And again, they can do sometimes under the eye things with injections instead of traditional, what's called blepharoplasty.
Right.
So,
what about what about liposuction? Anything out there free for lipo?
Well, again, instead of liposuction, they have things now that are called freezing. They have freezing the stomach and cool sculpting. And again, what you can do is see if the doctor needs anybody for YouTube videos or for that kind of thing. And sometimes the schools, like for dental schools, if you need dental work, oftentimes dental schools will give either free or very reduced services. And then there are also clinical trials. I've been called at least twice a year, every year, to see if I have bunions that I want fixed. Now, bunions is a foot procedure that again can be painful and whatever. And they keep wanting, and they would probably cost $5,000 to $10,000 to do. But I keep getting calls from these places that want to give it to me for free. I don't want to do it because it's painful no matter what. But my main thing is, if you're going to have a medical procedure, no matter what it is or who it is or where it is, do your research first. Look online at that doctor or that office. See what other people's results have been. See if there's any complaints about them. Because when you're dealing with your health, it's wonderful if it's free, but you want to make sure that it's a reputable place and that they're going to do a good job. Because it's one thing if you get a bad dress. It's another thing if you get a bad nose or foot or problem.
Well, so, you've seen my picture. There's literally nothing a doctor could do to improve any of this, because when you look like Jay Leno, you're kind of done for life. We're talking to Marilyn Anderson, the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. And you've got to go out and get this book. You can get it on Amazon. You can discover thousands of dollars in savings on entertainment, travel, shopping, fashion, health, beauty, home decor, and much, much more. Believe me, we didn't even really touch the surface on a lot of this because it is a fascinating book. And Marilyn, it is a great read. there's so much in here that it would take hours for us to really cover it in depth, and we would bore people sometimes to an extent. But I got to tell you something. I love the book. I really, really do. What do you want people to get out of this book more than anything else?
I want them to be able to not only save money, but to have fun, to enjoy your life and treat yourself well and go out and have a ball, but you don't have to spend all your money.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think so. And it took you 20 years to do this. And I know that a lot of your friends out there really appreciate this. I know I do. We're going to have you back. But before we go, and we've got a couple of minutes left, what is your favorite tip for women?
Well, for women, I like to tell them how they can get their hair done for free. And that's, you can go as a hair model. And the great thing about being a hair model is you don't have to be thin. You don't have to be gorgeous. You just need one thing, hair.
Yeah.
That's my favorite tip. And there's different ways to do it. And I go all the time. I'm a hair model almost every month. Yeah. So it's great fun.
Yeah, it can be. Marilyn Anderson, thank you so very, very much. Before we go, and I spoke to Marilyn about this before. My Celtics lost, by the way. But I just wanted to, I would be remiss if I did not say that we lost a grand gentleman today in the show business world, Sir Roger Moore, who played James Bond. And believe it or not, Mayor, he did more Bond movies than Sean Connery did.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. He was great. I loved him. Yeah.
Good looking guy. He did. And of course, he's also remembered for The Saint, where he played Simon Templar, which is kind of funny. If you think about it, Simon Templar, the Templar Knights, England, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to mention that because I really always enjoyed him as James Bond. And I hope all of you out there just say a little prayer for he and his family tonight. We have been talking to the marvelous Marilyn Anderson, the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. I can never thank you enough for taking the time to join us here on The Express, Marilyn. And I thank you very, very much for being with us tonight.
That's been great fun. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. And for all of you out there that follow me, please do so on Facebook at Gary Allen, ALAN, YouTube.com, Gary Allen, The Express. You'll hear this show on Friday. It'll be posted Thursday night at 7 p.m. This program repeats itself on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com, as well as progressivevoices.com on their demand channel. And very, very soon, you'll be able to hear this show on 24/7, The Sound out of Georgia. I'm very excited about joining that group of people as well, and there's a lot of other things going on. You can go on my website, which, like I said, is still under construction, at GaryAllenTalkShow.com. And I thank you all very, very much for joining us here on this episode of The Express. Next week, I'm taking off. It's a holiday, and I need a little bit of a rest. And I hope all of you have a very safe Memorial Day holiday. And please remember what Memorial Day is all about. It's just not another day off, but to remember those that have given their lives and who have served this country with great honor and great dignity. And I thank you all very much for taking the time, as you do every week. And Randy, thank you for being out there. I know you're listening in. So until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to The Express with Gary Allen. Join us here every Tuesday night at 10 for more captivating talk with Gary Allen. See you next time on The Express.